Ask the GM's Podcast, Episode 8, Shadows Over Camelot. This is Zach from Ask the GM's Podcast, where we talk about RPGs, board games, how to play them, and have a great time. I've been playing games for years, and I'm going to pass off my part of this conversation to Ian.
Hello, everyone. Ian Harper here. I have also been playing board games for a while. I'm going to steal a page out of RC's book here. I'm a second-generation board gamer and war gamer. My dad plays board games and war games as well. I'm going to pass it off to Rob.
Well, my name's Rob, and I too like games. And Brian.
Hey everybody, my name's Brian, and I enjoy board games. Still pretty new, similar to like the RPGing. And while I'm here, I do also want to give a shout out to our friends at Cape Fear, Cape Fear Games, and Sideboard. It's a great place with awesome people. It's where we spend a lot of time and definitely a lot of money. And yeah, they're awesome. And I'm then going to send it over to Pat.
Hey everybody, it's Pat again. Love board games. I love the whole community around it because I used to be a big video gamer and kind of lonely. But when you're around a table with your friends, it's even better. RC, how about you, bro?
Just want to say welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'm just happy to be here and have a great time with y'all and talk about a cool game.
For tonight's topic, we're covering Shadows Over Camelot, which was one of the first co-op board games that ever came out. Before that was Lord of the Rings, which some people have played, not everyone has played. Pandemic was very close to when Shadows Over Camelot came out, and it really just developed a new form of board games where everyone at the table, or at least the majority of the players at the table, had a goal to work together. It's also one of the first board games to have a hidden traitor. It was later emphasized and re-implemented in Battlestar Galactica, the traitor portion. So that's one of the more famous portions of that game. It also has a King Arthur theme, so if you're really into King Arthur, it's there for you. And what are everyone's initial thoughts on Shadows Over Camelot? Starting with you, Pat.
Okay, my first initial thoughts. Well, let me say, as far as tension in a game, this one handles it so well because you're constantly riding that line of, oh my God, are we about to, lose this all at once? And then, either A, you make it out by the hair of your chinny chin, or, the traitor just really sticks it in you and turns that knife. So I believe this game really handles that kind of tone very well. Ian, what's your thoughts?
So first of all, I love a good traitor mechanic. I'm a huge fan of the traitor mechanic in pretty much every board game I've played that has one. I personally have Unfathomable. I've played a couple of games that have the traitor mechanic. That's my key highlight of it is the traitor mechanic. And also, Pat, I agree with you. It has it does a really good job of building just building that tension that you want in a game that adds that adds to the environment of the game, that really adds to it kind of makes you feel like you're part of it. I think just once it starts coming down to the wire, you really start to feel it, and I like that. I like being put into that position. I like the tension too.
Yeah, speaking on tension, the game we played this last Tuesday came down to 2 players.
Yeah.
Everyone else was dead.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a nail biter.
That's crazy.
And Rob.
Well, as a fancy cup aficionado, I really appreciate that this is one of the very few games I've found that really corners that niche market of being very fancy cup centric. So yeah, I like the abundance of fancy cups in this game. Brian.
Yeah, chalices are pretty dope. I too enjoyed the sense of urgency. Turn one, you're automatically starting off with something negative. So that's like you're feeling the impact of the game right away. So that's pretty fun. And the traitor aspect is also very interesting. And I think I need to work on my traitoristic nature because I was terrible at it. But RC can tell you more about that.
And I just want to go ahead and start with you're not the worst traitor, man. You did great. None of us knew it was you other than me and Zach.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. I don't believe you, but I appreciate it.
We'll get you some ace level trader training. I have like a college course in it. I am known for taking people on a bus right to the land of victory and then running them over in said bus and walking over there.
But yeah, just this game in general has a really great way of escalating the tension more than I've seen in any of the other trader style games. There's more than one way that it ups the tension. So you have a life pool that it pulls from. There's the black omen cards that are constantly upping the ante. And then God forbid the traitor ever gets revealed, because it's going to get hairy real fast.
And I would like to add one more thing. How I don't know. There's almost a little bit of an RP element in the game where one of the rules is, you have to refer to the king as my king. So, we're sitting there at the table and Zach's King Arthur, and it's like, my king, I will do this for you. Or say, your bad action is, I fall upon my sword for, the good of the realm, or something like that. And whenever we get to talking to the white cards, you have different power levels of knights, and how you're not really supposed to say the exact number. So we find ways of fudging it, like, oh, this is the weakest of knights, or this is the strongest. So I liked that little bit of, and I don't even know if it's a required rule or not, but it's how we play it, and it is definitely enjoyable.
Or my favorite way to refer to them, meaty boys.
Also, Pat, if I'm King Arthur, just understand that ship is probably sinking. The number of times I've been King Arthur and haven't been the traitor, super low.
Yeah, that's the worst traitor for someone to be. Do you want to take us in the gameplay, Zach?
Yep, starting with gameplay. An important part of this game for the traitor mechanic is any player can be the traitor, including the king. And if you play with higher player counts, you can actually have 2 traitors. The game also offers drop in, drop out, so players can actually enter and leave the game at will, which no game has copied that from it. One of the fun things about the game is after everyone has their power sheet, all their little stuff as their character, everyone gets to take a card from their initial hand and put it in the middle of the table, and you get to do a team building exercise of divvying out the cards so everyone can kind of see where everyone's going, what everyone's putting in. And then in terms of core gameplay, a turn consists of 2 things. You have to do a bad thing, and then you do a good thing. The bad things range from falling on your sword, so you lose a life for the kingdom. You start with 4. Obviously, 0 is death. Most people would tend not to go down to 1 because it's very dangerous. You can just randomly die. You can put a siege engine out. The problem with siege engines is once we get to 12 or so, the game is over. So you don't want to put too many of those out because they are very difficult to remove and they tend to multiply very quickly. And then we can pull black cards, which range from bad to nightmarish. And then for good things, you can, if you're at Camelot, draw 2 cards. Accuse a knight if there are 6 swords on the table or 6 siege engines out there in the field. You can leave Camelot. Your whole turn is moving. Congratulations, you walked. Or you can attempt to complete any of the quests on the board, which range from getting Lancelot's armor, finding the Excalibur, getting the Holy Grail, jousting with the Black Knight, and a couple wars you can fight. So, all in all, it's actually a lot of small decisions each player makes. They make a bad action, and then they make a good action. Pat, what are your thoughts on these?
Well, I will say that the whole bad action, good action is, I can't tell you how many times I've, put a board game out for people and it's like, oh, I got to explain all this stuff. This one is straight and simple as could be. Bad, good, you make the choice. Obviously, we're going to judge you because if you don't fall on your sword and you're just, I just draw a random black card, you're probably going to draw some ire your direction. But yeah, I love the simplicity of play, and it gets more complex the more you get into it. Like, say for instance, Zach is our traitor. I'm just gonna pick on him now. He, he goes over to Lancelot's armor, which is kind of a tell because if you have Lancelot's armor, then you can look through the black cards, and if you're the traitor, you can get the worst of the worst black cards. You can pick around. So, if Zach immediately goes over there, we're going to say, hey, that's kind of sus. And that's a lot of what this game is us giving each other a stink eye, which I really love. Ian, you got anything to say on gameplay?
Yeah, as far as gameplay goes, I actually have I love first of all, I love the two-step turn, the good action, bad action. I also like how well the characters are balanced. I think that work. I think all the characters work really well. I mean, I feel like Arthur has, he has what he has, obviously, because he's the king. But I don't really try to figure out who the traitor is. I just kind of have fun with it. But no, that is the. I like how many like possible directions you have to go, like going to fight the war with the Picts and the Saxons, or going to joust with the knight, depending on what you have you have available to you. But I like all the choices that you have to make, and the kind of the wide variety of things to do, coupled with the sense of urgency, is what I really like about it.
And Rob.
I like how it's surprisingly simple. Like there's a lot going on, a lot of different things you can do, but the actual mechanics of how to do those things really not that difficult. So that's pretty nice. It makes it easy to get into. It's not too hard to learn.
And RC.
I'll admit this about the game. The thing that I love the most about it is once the escalation hits a point, because like Ian said, you kind of have a free range based on what cards you have available early on in the game. The game really begins to shine whenever it starts forcing you to make inopportune decisions, leaving quests behind, returning to Camelot to deal with other problems, dropping yourself lower, closer and closer to death. Once it reaches the second half of the game, it really starts to shine and show its own.
Yeah, RC. I was going to say that the last time I played was with you were there, and I believe Zach was there. I can't remember who else was there, but I remember one of you guys got really far in the Grail quest, and it had to be abandoned. There was no, like, it was either abandon it or die. I just remember it being like, there's this hurts. You know what I mean? Like, this really hurts to do this, but we have to. I just thought that was great. Like we've been talking about this whole time. Like, just the tension is just palpable. I love it.
Yeah, the tension's there, and the fact that turn 3 there could be already a solid stack against you. I know when we played, it was, I don't know what turn it was, but half the characters died in one turn just because of a single black card, and we were pulling those because there was 6 or 7 siege engines on there. It's like, well, I can't take any more damage, and we're just gonna pull this black card. Oh, I'm dead anyway. So, um, I think that's a fun mechanic.
Yeah, and I would add one more thing, that every single quest seems very grueling. Like, either you're by yourself and it's, you barely got it, or you need the help of all the rest of the knights or a handful of the knights. Because I want to say, as far as hard as quest goes, the chalice is the Holy Grail, rather, is the hardest thing to get. And then maybe behind that, Excalibur, and then maybe behind that, Lancelot's armor. And then the war with the Picts and the Saxons and the Black Knight are on the lower end. But it's still, every single quest is very grueling. So you do have to work hard for it.
I was so close to my shiny cup.
I might disagree with you there a little bit, Pat. I think Lancelot's armor is harder to get than the sword, because only one person can go get the armor. Like, everyone can work on the sword.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
But would you agree that the Grail's probably the Grail's the hardest one?
Oh, definitely.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's supposed. I think it's supposed to be.
Now, as far as quests that actually give you rewards, the Grail is the hardest one, but the hardest quest is the one that none of us have yet completed, which is to slay the dragon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
So that was going to be my next lead in into gameplay. This game is very interesting. It's one in terms of production value. It's gorgeous. Everyone has full character sheets that have like 90% of the rules on there, including your character's special power. So even if you're like playing with new people, they just have to look at this one thing. They can listen to someone talk, but they can read their sheet and know most of the rules. The board's beautiful, and a lot of it has a lot of tiny boards, but some of those boards flip over into new quests. So once Lancelot's armor is gained or lost, it turns into the dragon. And the reason why people don't fight the dragon is you need to face it with 3 sets of 3 of a kind. And not many people in that game can sacrifice 9 cards.
Especially at that point in the game. I don't think at that point in the game, that's a tough ask.
Yeah. And Zach, don't forget the well-crafted miniatures. They look awesome. And everybody has a little seat at the round table, which is a nice little bonus.
Yep, there's that. A couple other, I'm going to call these oddities, or how about standouts? You have a 12-card hand limit. That's pretty rare in games. It's pretty rare to have 12-card hand limit. And also the fact that all ties go to evil. So there's no meeting a number. You got to beat it. So if you go fight a siege engine, you got to play 9 to guarantee you blow that thing up. Otherwise, you're risking bouncing off of it.
I always like it when the bad guy wins ties, when evil wins ties, or whatever, the game wins the tie, or whatever. I think that helps with the feeling of the game, like makes it feel more consequential.
And how does everyone feel on production values and how the character sheets look?
I would say they're all fantastic myself. I mean, all the imagery is great.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's the card stock that they use for the actual character sheets is quite robust. And it's, just it is great art for sure. Even the board is fantastic. There's quite a bit of attention to detail I know, like where I was sitting, I was kind of over the jousting with the Black Knight, and that was like there was a lot of detail into like the sand and like the shadow in that, so it was very noticeable. Yeah.
Something I really liked about the artwork was kind of Brian, to expand on what you were talking about. Like when you look at the board, it's like a eagle's eye or a bird's eye view of the land. Like Brian, you were talking about the jousting. It's like you're looking down on the arena, and like the war with the Picts and the Saxons. It's like you're looking down on the battlefield. I can't remember which one it was. One of them is like on the shore of a beach, and it looks like it's like straight up like dudes landing on the beach, and I just like that bird's eye perspective. The production quality. What's that, Pat?
I said, yeah, that would be with the Saxons, and then we get the overtop of the castle too. So
yeah, it's so cool. I like the way the round table, you're looking down on the round table. It's just, I love that.
I do want to add, I also enjoyed like for the Grail quests, there's like you can see the two sides, like the the beginning side for good is golden, chalice, gorgeous, and as it gets to the other side, it slowly starts to like not decay, but definitely become dusty and covered in cobwebs. Like, it's like a deserted kind of table situation, and that was really cool too.
Very good. And now focusing on the traitor, as we mentioned earlier, any player can be the traitor in the game. I play with a guaranteed traitor, and with having the traitor in the game, it changes a lot of tiny rules. One, if the loyal knights don't get the traitor at the end of the game, 2 white swords flip over to black, so you want to catch them. You also have someone throwing a spanner in the work so they can help you toss quests. Also, at any time as the traitor, you can reveal yourself. You steal any relics you take with you, like the Grail or anything, and then you just get to taunt and make fun of the rest of the players the rest of the game by stealing cards from their hand and either putting the siege engine out or playing a black card. How do you guys feel on the traitor and why it's important to catch them?
Well, I'd say first off, I think we have to discuss traitor tactics, like what you think the best move is. Because I know I talked to you a lot about it, Zach. Was it Hanwin that did the pretty much immediate trader reveal, like screw you guys from the beginning? And that's one I've wanted to try but haven't gotten around to.
Well, he didn't reveal. He just started pulling black cards. Just no one can accuse him at that point.
Yeah, he was just burning you down as much as possible.
Which in that I don't feel really reflects kind of the theme of the game. Like if you want to win, you can do that. Like if your goal is to win, yeah, you can do that. But you're not really playing the game.
I gotcha. Let's see. Anybody else have any thoughts on how they like to play the trader? Did you get away with it recently, Brian?
I did not get away with it. To avoid suspicion, because there was already some suspicion that was aroused. I believe I was fighting the Picts and I went down to 1 life. So I was like, on the brink of death. Everybody got called back to Camelot, and then like 2 black cards later, there was, something pulled, and it's like everybody loses 1 health, and so I was dead. But I guess my first play of the game was terrible because I played a mystery for like the number 1 card, which was a faux pas. But I didn't really have another option because I already had made the decision, and I would, if I was to do it again, I would not have done that.
So I've never actually got to play the trader. Like I said, I think I mentioned earlier, I've only really played the game twice, and I've never got to play the trader yet. I'm looking forward to it though. I love being the trader in other trader games that I've played.
Zach, what about the tactic where if you're the trader, you just start throwing Grail cards into the dumpster for Excalibur?
It's not just Grail cards, special whites, Merlin. You especially do it as Arthur because you want to keep the good cards, and like I just have crap. How do you have crap? Oh, I don't know. Well, stuff happened.
There's this dumpster over here full of Holy Grails and awesome Merlin spells.
To be fair, if King Arthur is the traitor, it means all of you betrayed him.
Oh, that's one way of looking at it, yeah.
That's a very meta way of that's a very meta approach.
I did definitely throw away as the traitor because I was able to like discard 1 white card and draw a new white card. That was my special power. And I definitely like discarded like 2 or 3 Grail cards, and I also found out later that I discarded the wrong like special white power, which was Fate. Apparently, I could have lied and said I wasn't the traitor, but I did not read that card correctly.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that card in a little bit.
As 2 out of the 3 times that I've played this game playing the trader, I've learned some different trader tactics from Trader Extraordinaire, our host, and disking cards is probably one of the best ways to really start getting a spanner in the works. There's a couple characters, we've already talked about one of them, that have discard abilities to do other things. The one that I had a successful trader with, he can discard 2 of the cards from his hand to prevent a life, so you can just fall on your sword and fish cards out of the deck and just keep fishing and fishing and fishing and fishing and fishing. And I've recently learned that you should totally just accuse the other knights from the get-go if you're the traitor. As soon as you're able, or as soon as you have a good time, accuse your buddy that you know is definitely loyal, and then reveal yourself to be the traitor.
Yeah, it's real useful for get that additional black sword on the table.
Yep, punish for false accusations, right?
And one thing I failed to mention earlier, this game has a very specific victory condition. It has many losing conditions that are the same. All the players are dead is pretty standard. We mentioned all of the siege engines out. The good players, the loyal players, will also lose if the table is full of swords and a majority are black, but they only win if the table is full and a majority of the swords are white. What do you guys feel about this victory condition?
I personally like it because of the challenge, and just the effect that has on the late gameplay and just the strategy with the trader. I just like the challenge.
Yeah, I believe it's interesting how that you have to have a little bit of failure in there just to fill up the table. So really, you gotta kind of pick your battles as a group. Like, okay, we're gonna lose this Black Knight fight, or this pick war, the Saxon war, mainly so we can fill up the table with more swords. But you gotta weigh your options.
And this may be stepping into a future topic, but leading from what you went from picking your decisions of being like, are we going to lose that? Yeah, we're going to lose that. But if we win this one, then it's really going to put us in an advantage. This plays into the theme of the game a lot, because this game is not a notoriously happy game. It is about the fall of Camelot. Regardless of how you look at it, whether the knights win or lose, this is the fall of Camelot.
And RC, that's actually why I really like the game, is the theme, is the backdrop of it. I really enjoy that, because I really get into I've always been some of my friends and my family definitely picks on me for this, but I get into the flavor, like I get into the actual environment. I like to get into it, and I really like the backdrop of Shadows over Camelot. I think it's great.
Moving on to the next topic. Majority of the game focuses on 2 decks of cards, one of them being the white deck and the other one being the black deck. We're going to talk about the white deck real quickly. Majority of the cards are just fight cards valued 1 to 5. There's also some wilds in there that can be either 1 or 5 or whatever you want. Grails, and then special white cards that take your whole turn to play. But the important thing about the special white cards is they kind of change the game. And there's 2 that we specifically have to talk to. One is being Tournament, and the other one being Fate. But overall, what are you guys' feelings on special white cards or the white cards in general? I know Merlin's another really good one to talk about.
I like the group hugginess of the Merlin card, because one Merlin, just comes in clutch at the right moment. And what is it? You have to play 3 white Merlin cards to negate one of the big nasty black cards like Morgana or something like that.
Yeah, it's 3 Merlins.
Yeah.
Or you get rid of Excalibur forever to stop one.
Oh, I did not know that was a rule. That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I like the Merlin, the group hug. That's a good way to put it. And it's a good way to out the traitor, because if all the other Merlin cards, we played with 6 people, so there was 2 sets of Merlins that could be played, and if somebody had discarded theirs, then they were pretty much guaranteed to be the traitor.
Very good. And we're going to talk about Fate really quickly. Brian mentioned like messing up reading that. It is one of the 2 cards I see people mess up all the time. I feel that if they do a reprint of the game, they just need to add like a handful of additional words on that card. Because how it actually works is, I claim I am loyal, all knights draw a card. And the second half says, if you are the traitor, you can reveal. And then all good knights discard a card. I've seen traitors draw the card and think they have to play it and instantly reveal. I've seen people mess that card up all the time. The other card is Tournament, where it says, if you are a squire, become a knight. It's a variant from the expansion we never play with. But the second half of that card says, or gain 2 life. And a lot of people just get focused on that first half of the card. Any thoughts or comments on these?
Life is always solid in my book. But we don't really play with... Or I don't know that we play with squires that often, so I don't know how much that would affect things for me.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not familiar with that at all.
Just a note on Fate, because last time that I played and finally wasn't the traitor, or the time before that when I was the traitor, I actually had to come over there and ask you about it. And I was like, what the hell's this card mean?
Yeah, it's one of the few cards that I see people just like fumble over. I'm like, I get it. Just read it twice and then think on it. And it makes sense. I see people mess it up all the time. And unfortunately, historically, Shadows Over Camelot is the game I see messed up the most in terms of my history of playing games. And some of that I don't get. Like, I've seen people say they won, but the table's not full. I'm like, no, you got to fill the table. I see that Fate card messed up all the time. I played with 9 people, and player 8 asked me every turn what he was supposed to be doing. I'm like, it's on your little character sheet. Also, man, you had 7 people in front of you. Like, do about the same 2 things. Have you not been paying attention?
Yeah, anyone who's ever played with Zach knows that's a no-no.
One thing I will say, this kind of goes back to the gameplay portion of it, is that I find with a lot of cooperative board games, you can kind of I guess I call it alpha gamer it where you're seeing what everybody's doing, and especially in a cooperative setting, and then you see people making suboptimal plays, and you're just kind of like, oh, this sucks because you're taking our whole team down. I feel like Shadows Over Camelot doesn't really make you do that, or whenever you're playing, because you're not really knowing what everybody's doing. You kind of a general plan. What do you think about that, Zach?
I think it can happen. I think the one time where like I bring it up and tell people like maybe a move to make is people don't realize you can fall on your sword and you only die at the end of your turn. So if you fall on your sword, complete a quest and get a life back as part of the reward for that quest, you're alive and it's fine. It's just that's usually the better play than either pulling a black card or putting a siege engine out. Because the problem with siege engines, it becomes two players' job the rest of the game of just poking those.
Yeah, Zach, I really appreciate you because I didn't know that the first time I played it. You just kind of assume that once you reach 0, like that's it. When we played not too long ago, I really appreciated that you told me that rule because I think it actually helped me on 2 turns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that like it's like the 12 card hand limit and the tie thing. Not a lot of games function like that. Like if you go to 0, you're dead instantly. No, like you die at the end of the turn in this game. It's like, oh, okay. So we talked about white cards. Let's talk about the black cards. Like I said earlier, they range from bad to nightmarish. They can put the grail back further. They can put the sword back further. They can start wars happening. They can make armor go away. They can make everyone come back to Camelot and end the turn. There's witches, and there's Morgan and Mordred, and some of those cards are bad. Put out 2 siege engines or play the next 3 black cards in a row. Kind of bad. What are your guys' opinion on all the black cards?
Well, I'll start us out. My least favorite one is the Black Grail, because not only does it hamper your progress for Grail by 1, but by 2, because you have to toss a Grail card to get rid of it, and then the Grail card to replace the one it knocked out. So Black Grails are my bane.
Yeah, I have to agree with Pat because Pat, I just remembered the fact that you have to toss one. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Pat on that one.
Well, there's also Desolation, which is like the super black rail that not only replaces it, but it also like moves a space closer. So it basically eats 3 white grails.
Yeah, the exchange rate on Holy Grails to Black Grails is really poor.
And none of those black cards are particularly nice. You know, the I don't know. I think it was a Morgan card where it was, I think that's what killed everybody. Was everybody loses 1 life, and then just automatically adding to the Grail list. That sucks. But it goes back to all ties go to evil, and I would say that the black deck is kind of more powerful overall than the white card you get. So
I really like the 7 witches. I'm assuming there's 7 of those cards where it's a permanent long-term effect that you have to deal with. Some of them have other stipulations, like
there are 7.
There's 7. Some of them say like it'll go away after you complete a quest, or you can't do this until a quest is completed. But it's nice to have that little small touch where it's like, oh, hey guys, we also have this other long-term effect to deal with now, on top of us pulling any more black cards from that deck.
Yeah, RC, I feel like again in that last game we played, didn't we have 2 of those out at the same time? 2 witches doing 2 bad things like forever for the rest of the game.
We had 3 at one point. We ended up with the one that prevented us from playing Merlins until the next quest was completed.
Oh, that's right. The Merlin one. Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah, some of the other standout black cards. There's the one where Merlin cards just get removed from the game after you play them.
Yep. And Guinevere was a pain. We had to deal with that one at a really inopportune time in the last game that we had.
What does Guinevere do?
Guinevere forces all of the knights to return to the round table, and the player who drew that card, their turn ends immediately. They don't get a good action.
it was me. I drew Guinevere.
Wow, that's the pits. Wow, that's terrible.
Now I have a question about that. Does that track for Guinevere as far as like the theme and the lore for Camelot is concerned?
Yeah, this is after her and Lancelot hook up, so yeah.
And
You know-
she would just call the knights back like, "Oh, I have a problem. Come answer my call."
Definitely her concubine. She did. I'm pretty sure she like asked Lancelot to come back during the affair. I don't know if she did that with anybody else. Like off the top of my head, though.
If you don't mind me jumping in real quick, Ian, thematically, the way that I think about it is like King Arthur learned his lesson the first time, and now he's like, whenever she sends letters to somebody, I'm always coming back with everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a no. Let's go check up on things, and then we can go back to what we were doing.
So wait a second. Was she sleeping around the round table? Is that what I'm getting?
Oh, dude, for sure, dude. Read some Arthurian legend, man, for sure.
And since we're kind of creeping in the theme here, I have another question. Is it Morgan Le Fay? Is that her name?
Yeah, Arthur's cousin or just someone from far away. There's a lot of different interpretations, whether she's just the queen of the Fae with the name, or Arthur and her were kind of like sister and brother.
Yeah,
There's a lot of weird options.
Now, on the game, she just comes in and nukes us, right? Does that kind of track for her?
Yeah.
Well, she's trying to get Mordred on the throne.
Is that her husband?
Arthur and her son makes that brother sister thing weird.
Uh,
Yeah, he's terrible. Like I said, read it. It's good. It's really good stuff.
yeah, I feel like being I don't know. Well, it doesn't seem to be tracking for you guys. Just being a U.S. citizen, I feel like this is more European kind of folklore kind of deal. So maybe that's why I've missed out on a lot of it.
Are you telling me you know more about Babe and the Big Blue Ox than
Yes. Yes. I feel like my King Arthur knowledge is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, but that's okay though. That checks out.
Yep.
I was gonna
Spamalot,
say,
man.
I think most people start there, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Even that
exactly.
movie's perfect.
Is it
everybody
unfortunate?
starts
Though?
with Spamalot, and you go from there.
It all starts with East African swallows.
Yep.
Well, we've talked about a whole bunch of the game. Let's talk about the player powers. Every knight and the king have a power. Arthur's power is he gets to go first because he's king. That's just the title of king. But he's the only player that can trade. And as a trader, that's horrible because you can make terrible deals because the players don't get to see the trade. They just trade face down cards. But as a loyal king, it's also amazing.
Yeah, he really gets everybody what they need. He's kind of a big crux for just, I don't know, making everybody's else life simpler within the kingdom.
I feel like if he's the traitor, it's very likely that the game is going to be lost.
Well, yeah, because like his turn is probably the turn where people pay the most attention, because at least someone's going to want something traded, whether that's someone that needs more grails at the Grail quest, or someone at another quest wants to trade something to someone else. Like he becomes the pivotal character, and that makes sense as king. He's going to talk to all the knights.
Yeah, there's definitely whenever his turn shows up, it's like a bunch of people. I don't know if I'd say groveling or just beseeching the king for, oh my king, I have this for you, or so on and so forth. I'm gonna take what I regard as the second most powerful behind King Arthur, Sir Galahad. He has the ability to, once per heroic action, play one special white card for free. So Sir Galahad can do all the magic at a very efficient rate. I don't know if that would track for him lore-wise, but that is very strong power within the game.
I liked the power of the knight I had last time. I think leaving Camelot was a free move, if I'm not mistaken. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's Sir Tristan.
Yeah, that was a pretty nifty power. It came in handy a lot in that game.
Yeah, when we played Tuesday, I had that power, and I would like finish a quest and then immediately go on another quest. Because when you finish one, you go back to Camelot.
And then another very strong knight is Sir Percival. He has the ability to, during his progression of evil step, he's able to look at the top card of the black deck, so he can either determine whether it's bad for him or whether we need to be like, hey guys, slow down on doing this quest because this black card's coming up next, or it's going to affect doing that. So I think Sir Percival is pretty quintessential to the array of knights you have around the table.
Well, not only that, he's almost like he can see it. You almost never want him to draw it though, because then you
Yeah.
lose the information.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have some standout knights?
I've only been a single knight. So it was Bedivere was the knight I was, and it was the power. Pretty much, I could discard a white card from my hand and draw a new white card, which again came in super handy when being the traitor, because I'm discarding fate cards and chalice cards or goblet cards, and that was pretty cool just to drop those on unsuspecting players. But
So Zach, I was going to ask you, what do you, since you've probably played the game probably more than any of us have, what do you think is maybe the, I don't want to call it the weakest power or the most useless power, but what seems to be the one that's not as desired? What seems to be the weakest one?
So there's one we don't even play with, which is from the expansion, which we're going to talk about later. There's a couple other ones that you add cards, like in a combat, like who cares?
Yeah, Sir K.
Versus like you get like the other Blue Knight where you get to roll the dice first when fighting siege agents, so you know how many cards you have to get rid of. That power is amazing. Or if you're the Black Knight and you're at the quest, you get an additional life, which means you can burn life to do more things. Yeah, there's a couple just sleep powers where you're just like, I don't know why you would ever pick the other power.
And I guess one more honorable mention. I feel like he's more of a middle of the road. Sir Gawain, has the ability to draw 3 cards at the round table instead of 2. Just having a bigger grip gives you more options. I just like him because he has a mace. I don't know why. I just like that vibe.
Well, Pat, that checks out with you, man. You like to hit things with a stick.
Yeah. It's the oldest pastime.
Okay, we're going to quickly cover the expansion and then get into final thoughts. So the expansion adds an alternate power for every color except for Arthur. So that's why there would be 2 white powers. It adds both orange powers. It adds Merlin as a figure you can put on the board and he moves around, and while he's there in a space, black cards don't happen on that space. It added the 7 witches, some more black cards, the wild fight cards. It added enough cards so that you can play up to 9 players and have 2 traitors. It added the squire mechanic, which we don't even bother with. And the reason why we don't play with Merlin is part of the Merlin mechanic is he moves around and there's a movement deck. But also when each player goes to move, they have to draw from the movement deck. And part of that is you might not even go to the quest you want to go on. You might get sent to a different quest. One of the cards just straight up captures you and someone else has to come save you. I find it makes the game so much more harder than having that part of the game that we just don't play with Merlin.
Merlin's a bad boy.
No, Merlin's good. It's not worth that additional cost.
Oh, okay.
So you mind filling us in on the squires, because that's the thing that we've kind of left out.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing about that. I mean, I know we don't use it, but I'm interested to hear how that works.
Pulling it up.
Well,
I have to look it up again because it's been so long that I've even stared at it. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. Squires are in the main game. They're under the expert rules portion.
Oh, gotcha. The Touch of Evil does that. They've got like the basic game and the advanced game. I have a few games that do that.
Is it not hard enough already? Like, I feel like we barely make it sometimes.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, Pat. Like the 2 times that I played, I mean, well, I think the last one we lost, but the first one was definitely by the hair on our chinny chin chin.
Yeah, it's definitely a clincher pretty much every time.
So here's how it works. You basically pick the color. You get the same starting hand. You don't get a power until you complete a quest. And like say every knight is at the quest. 1 player gets to become a knight from a squire.
Oh, good lord.
Hmm.
Yeah, that game is hard enough. We don't need that gas.
I was
What?
gonna say that. I mean, that would just okay. I feel like that would be a loss. Almost that would be almost a guaranteed loss if it was at the right time.
Well, like, yeah, say you started all the players as squires, you're just screwed.
Yeah. It's like the interns will save Camelot. No.
Also, like, who wants to play the game and not have a power? There's sometimes like your power is not used. That's fine, but it's available. No. You just don't have one.
Someone that hates life, they just, I want to lose. It makes me feel good.
Masochism.
It'd be like playing legendary encounters. Like, no, you don't need to power this game. Like, no, I need that power. That thing's gonna come eat my face. Thank you for listening to Ask the GM's podcast. Join us next week where we cover World of Darkness. Ooh.